Hey everyone, how's it going? AZREN here. Hope you guys are doing well. In this video here, I want to talk about some of the first steps that I take when I am learning a brand new language. Now, the first thing I always like to do is I like to learn the sounds and the alphabet in the new language. So for example, if I was learning French, the first thing I would do is go learn the alphabet and go learn all the different sounds that could potentially exist in French. There are a few reasons for that. The first one is that when I'm reading French, I want to be able to at least pronounce the things that I'm seeing. So even though when it's a new language, I might not know what everything means when I read, but at a minimum, I want to be able to say it at an acceptable level and know how to pronounce it. Secondarily, when I hear the language, I don't want it to sound completely foreign. I want to be able to listen to it and be like, hey man, I don't know what you're saying, but at least I can kind of hear the sounds, at least I could see or rather hear where words start and end, etc. Once I've kind of learned the pronunciation, the alphabet, etc., from there I tend to learn basic phrases. So things like hello, goodbye, thank you, excuse me, like where is blah blah blah, things like that. And the main reason for that is because if I'm learning a new language, if I meet someone who speaks that language, I want to be able to communicate at least something with them, right? I want to be able to be like, hello, or be able to say goodbye, or say thank you. I'd like to be able to use at least a couple words or a couple phrases with that individual and make that connection, right? And make a little bit of a connection. Like, yeah, I'm learning your language, and I'm trying, and I know I'm not fluent yet, but I'm really making an effort. And so that basic phrases allows me to start communicating very, 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 very quickly. From there, I tend to learn pronouns. Things like I, you, he, she, they, we, all that different stuff, pronouns. After that, then it starts to break down a little bit. It starts to diversify and starts to change a bit. Initially, when I only did Romance languages, I would learn verbs, and I would learn how to conjugate those verbs in the present tense. So as in, like what's happening right now or today. And a couple of years ago, or a few years ago, I started to learn Chinese, and I realized that, wow, not every single language will conjugate verbs the same way that Romance languages do. Like Chinese, you don't really conjugate the verb per se. And so when you learn the verb to eat, all of a sudden you can say, yesterday I ate. All of a sudden you can say, tomorrow I will eat. Like, you can start to talk in lots of different tenses with relative ease once you've learned the verb. And so for me, it was a bit of a brain twist to go, whoa, I don't need to learn conjugations? Huh. However, I will say this, even though in Chinese I didn't necessarily need to focus heavily on conjugations, I think a verb focus really, 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 really makes sense. Because from a beginner level to get to, let's say, a mid-intermediate to even an upper intermediate, actually maybe mid-intermediate I would say, one of the biggest roadblocks is just that you don't know enough verbs. And once you know a verb and you know how to use it in different verb tenses, like past, present, etc., it really opens up the number of things that you can talk about in that language. So a verb focus, and I'll tack this on, a bit of an adjective focus at the same time really makes sense as a next step for me. And now that I'm talking this out, I'm realizing more and more and more. And I also will learn nouns that are based on the verbs that I'm learning. For instance, let's say I learn the verb to eat. A lot of the nouns that I'll learn will be based around the things that I can eat. So fish, meats, different fruits, different vegetables, etc., etc. When I learn the verb to drive or to walk or to go, things like that, I'll learn different places that I could go to. So maybe countries, maybe cities, maybe post office, maybe house, maybe work, school, things like that. So a lot of the nouns that I'm learning, for me personally, I tend to try and incorporate them and link them to a lot of the verbs that I have learned. And what that allows you to do is if you know, verbs, nouns associated with those verbs, and some common adjectives, all of a sudden you can start to talk and put sentences together, especially if you understand how to do that in a couple of different tenses. So in the early stages, that's kind of my starting point. That's kind of where I begin, and that's kind of what allows me to get to that beginner to call it intermediate or low intermediate, mid intermediate level. So anyway, that's everything for today. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye for now.